Welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you how to make one of my favorite easy, quick ferments to make. And I always try to have some of this in my kitchen because it is just so delicious to have with actually anything. So what I'm going to be making is fermented garlic and chili. It's only really two main ingredients. So we've got fresh garlic and fresh chili. These are going to be our two main ingredients, but of course, because we're fermenting, we also need salt, and I'm just using sea salt. When I say this is a fast recipe, what I mean is that to actually prepare this probably would only take about 10 minutes. You know, assuming you buy the peeled garlic. I always buy the peeled garlic. You could do this by hand. I'm gonna be using a food processor because using a food processor just makes this way faster and easier. I've roughly tried to go for equal garlic and chili. It doesn't really matter how much of each. Like if you want it more spicy, you can add more chili. If you want more garlic, add more garlic. What matters is after we grind this up together, we need to take the weight then. Push this all back down. Oh, it smells spicy already. Honestly, you could just take this, add some vinegar to it, and it would be tasty already. I'd say that's about good enough there. You can make it chunkier if you want, but I like to go for as thin as possible because I like the final product to be more like a sauce instead of a chunky paste. This next step is pretty crucial. You want to get your scale, turn it on, and have it zeroed with the bowl on top because we need to take the exact weight of this garlic and chili. We need to get the exact weight of this garlic and chili because we're going to use that to figure out how much salt we need to use to ferment this safely. Let's get that one out. So I'm looking at about 313 grams of chili and garlic. So for lactofermentation, we want around 2 to 5% salt. I never really like to go as high as 5% because that does end up being really salty. So I'm probably gonna do 2 or 3%. If you wanna ferment this for longer, I recommend going for about 3% salt. If you wanna ferment this quicker, I recommend doing 2% salt. I think I'm personally just gonna do 2% salt. I just want to get this fermented quickly. I don't want this to be too crazy pungent. I still want to keep a lot of that garlic and chili flavor. And to calculate 2% salt, you take this 313 grams that I've got here and you multiply that by 0.02. My favorite way to do it is just ask this guy, what's 2% of 312? And you'll get an answer right there. Just to make life easier, I'm gonna go up to 7 grams. Because just that little bit of extra salt won't hurt. If anything, it might actually make it a little bit safer and won't make it that much saltier. We'll zero this out again, and then I'll go ahead and add 7 grams of salt. So we've got our salt in there now, and we just want to mix this until the salt is pretty much dissolved, which could take a minute if you've got big chunky salt like mine. Now that that salt is completely mixed in, we've basically done all the work. We're just gonna transfer this to our jar and then just leave it to ferment. So this is obviously dish soap clean, so I've washed it with dish soap, and that should be okay, but I just like to go the little extra step. I've got my no rinse sanitizer, which I'll just give a couple spritz. We can just knock any of that air out, clean the sides down. So leaving it like this could be a little bit dangerous because we've got a lot of air contact, which means we could have mold growing pretty easily. So what I'm gonna do to minimize that air contact, just take a plastic bag. This is one of them food bags, basically food safe. And then just push it down like this to make sure it's really making contact with the whole top. You can just also try push down, get some of that juice coming up, and that'll just create an extra like nice seal. We can close our jar up. Now this will produce gas, so if you are using a flip top bottle, you're gonna wanna burp that a couple times, maybe once or twice a day. But for this jar, I don't need to do that. This jar will let gas release by itself. And I'll just put this on the side for a few days, maybe a week or two to ferment. then it'll be ready for the next step. Now, fortunately, we have one that I made about a month ago, and unfortunately, the color has turned quite different, but it should still be good. So this is kind of a result of using green chilies and a couple red chilies. If you were to use just red chilies, this comes out with a really nice red color. I did also use jalapeno chilies for this as well. So it's always fun to like play around with different chilies too. The one that we just made was using Korean spicy chilies, which are like the little really spicy ones, but I think jalapenos are actually spicier. From this point on, we can go a couple different ways. You can just eat this like this as a side, and it's just, let me try it out. It's still a little bit salty. It's got a little bit of acidity, and that garlic flavor is really mellowed out, and also the spice is mellowed out too. So it's not super interesting at the moment. What I want to do though is add vinegar to this. By adding vinegar to this, we can help preserve this a little bit longer, but also just give it that extra tanginess to make this into sort of like a Tabasco-y hot sauce. So I'm gonna be using my food processor again just to do this because we can get a lot more juice out of this way. I'm not gonna add all of it. I wanna save some of this for some other things too. Start off with that much vinegar. Don't know how much it is. We're doing this by taste, so we'll do it bit by bit. You don't wanna go too much to start with because you can't undo this. You can always add more vinegar. You can't take away vinegar. More vinegar. I'm gonna say more vinegar. No, I would put more vinegar. I'm gonna say the color is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm just gonna strain the liquid out. It's okay, we can just restart that. This wasn't supposed to break that easily. There you go, now I can really push. We're just extracting all that liquid because if we want to make a sort of Tabasco-y style hot sauce, it's just got to be just the liquid. But the solids aren't going to go to waste. We can actually dry the solids out and use that as chili powder, fermented chili powder, chili and garlic powder. I kind of wish I used red chilies because the color might be a little bit better then, but this is kind of basically like our Tabasco sauce. It's still quite sweet, a little bit bitter, and the spice really hits you at the back of the throat with the vinegariness, but I think that'll go pretty decently on some pizza. To finish this up, I'm just gonna put this into a nice jar to serve, and then you can store this in the fridge kind of indefinitely because there's so much vinegar in it, but let's be honest, it's probably gonna disappear by the time it goes bad anyway. I wouldn't say this is waste. What I will do, I don't have a dehydrator here in the studio, but I can take this and I can dehydrate this, and this will turn into a really delicious fermented garlic chili with a bit of vinegar powder, which you can sprinkle over fries or ramen or meats or anything. So that is also a really nice extra product that you get out of it. So if you do have it, put this into a nice little like bottle that just makes it easier to serve. Keep this in the fridge and it should last a few weeks, a couple months, as long as it doesn't go bad. But to be honest, you're probably gonna eat this all by the time it even has a chance to think about going bad. So that was my super quick, super easy fermented garlic and chili paste, sauce, powder recipe that I like to do all the time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like. Maybe leave some comments down below on other ways you like to ferment garlic and chili or ferment chili or make hot sauces. I want to hear them all. We can maybe do some in some future videos. If you do want to see those future videos, make sure you're subscribed as well. And that's it for this video. Until next time.